Welcome to Building Bulletproof Backs, where we redefine the mainstream medical approach to healing stubborn back pain. Join physiotherapist and movement addict Marian McRae on a mission to end the back pain epidemic. Building bulletproof backs requires mental, physical, and emotional strategy. Hope is not enough. Listen now as she interviews real-life back pain sufferers who have found a way out of the nightmare and introduces you to leading-edge teachers with powerful tools that can change your life. You can do this. Your body knows how to heal. You just got to learn how to get out of its way. Now, let's get into today's episode.
Every time I listen to that intro, it's a healthy mix of cringe and I get a giggle. My kids helped me pick that voice nearly 2 or 3 years ago now, so I can't change it. Even though part of me wants to, part of me wants to keep it. But enough about that. I thought I'd have a quick update of where I'm at. There's been a delay in interviewing people for the past few months as I finish my psychedelic assisted therapy training. That's taken a fair bit of time away from the Bulletproof Backs project. However, that's completed and now we're back into bringing these conversations to you. I've got a book that's now on Amazon. Basically, it's a really short read, giving you a bit of an introduction to the Bulletproof Backs method and system, which is a holistic program which looks at your thinking, your feeling, and your movement behaviours. So if you go to the website www.bulletproofbacks.com, you'll be able to check out the book. We're offering online consultations. I've been able to hand select a few really, open-minded practitioners who are fully trained in my systems, and I personally believe coming at back pain from a holistic approach. So we're offering consultations as part of our team now online. So it doesn't matter wherever you are in the world, if any of the concepts resonate with you that we share on this podcast and you would like myself or one of the team to help you out, then just jump online and we can have the chats and we can assess how you move, and we can do it all over the internet these days. And of course there's courses if you simply just want to plod along at your own pace in the comfort of your own home, then the courses are an ideal option for you. So check it all out and look forward to a few more consistently produced podcasts in the next few weeks. Kicking off today with Dr. Scott Bertrand, who has an amazing device he's developed. Episode 20, onwards and upwards from here. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank you all for tuning in and listening, and I really would love to hear your comments and thoughts and any ideas you have on people you would like interviewed or people that you know have a cool story. Hit me up. You can go to the website and just simply email me directly from there. Thanks again for listening, and please share these podcasts with anyone that you think might be struggling. I've intentionally tried to interview many different people from many different genres and walks of life so that we can find the podcast that's going to be matched to the person as best as possible. I honestly believe if you hear the story of someone who's done it, who seems a lot like you, then you're more inclined to believe that you can heal your back pain and you can improve your situation. And there's no recipes. It's going to be different for everybody. But hopefully within the podcast range, you'll find one that just lands for you. Onwards and upwards. Thanks for listening. Please share. Welcome.
You figured it out. All right.
Dr. Scott Bertrand, all the way from somewhere a long way away, who's with me today to speak about the All Core 360, which is a fascinating rehab unit. I haven't seen anything like it, so I'm really stoked you're here for us to pick your brain about your thinking behind the machine. And before we do that, would you just like to take a moment to introduce yourself and perhaps start with your own back pain experiences, and maybe that's why that's kicked you off into developing such an awesome machine?
Good day, Marion. And absolutely, I'll give you, my name is Dr. Scott Bertrand. I'm a retired chiropractor. But during my chiropractic career, I had several spinal injuries that kind of threw me into this rehabilitation space. And the first one being a low back injury, a fracture in my low back. Kind of the way it started is, and I know I'm talking to an audience of people that have had similar injuries and had similar problems. I went to my initial medical provider just hoping that everything would work out perfectly. I was injured. Their job is to fix me. So I show up for that to be fixed. And everything we were doing at the time wasn't really helping me proceed. In fact, they were quite painful. So in sharing the painful problems with the therapist, he kind of just said, Scott, you need to suck this up. And I realized right away, Marion, it wasn't a suck it up thing at all. That the activities they were asking me to do for rehab were actually injuring the damage that was caused by my trauma. So I wasn't overly clever. I was a young man when I started this, and that kind of impetus of hurting my spine and wanting to know more about it threw me into the chiropractic profession because I wanted to know more about the spine. Obviously, something's wrong, and the people don't understand how to take care of it. And as fate would have it, as I'm in chiropractic school, I break my neck. Life is a funny thing, but once I broke my neck, I was thrown back into this rehabilitation space again. And once again, they were recommending things that weren't what I thought appropriate. And I was a chiropractor then, so I had enough information that I could realize maybe where some of those problems lie. And when I realized where the problems were, I spent a lot of time developing the all core. It took many years for it to actually come to fruition. And honestly, it's taken a good decade of tweaking and working and research and to get us to where we are now. But now we're helping thousands of people. It's just a wonderfully rewarding space to be in. But yeah, that's how it kind of got started. God told me, broke me up a few times and said, you need to fix this. and we did.
Yeah.
That's why I have the all core now.
Yeah. And one thing is having the idea, but actually creating the unit, it's a pretty impressive unit. So I can't imagine that's been an easy ride. Finding engineers,
Oh, goodness.
getting the whole mechanics, that
It's
would have
been a
been
long
the,
ride.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm blessed, though, that my brother is an electrical engineer. In fact, my brother is one of the real few geniuses I've really, really met on the planet. But he's, when I shared, it came to me in a dream, actually, Marion. I was really working hard on trying to come up with what had to happen to make this the appropriate tool. And I'd like to discuss those issues that make it that appropriate tool. But when I was trying to put this together in my head, I was struggling very hard to reach the check boxes I'd put. It had to be 10 minutes. It had to take care of the whole spine. It had to do all these things. And actually, it came to me in a dream, completed after months of working on it. And I got up and drew the design, called my brother the engineer and genius. In a week, he gave me a little model with a little model of a person in it. And from that point on, he and I have been building this device to the point now that we have over 100 units around the country. We're going international. We've got some around the world now. And we desperately need to be in Australia. It's funny how healthcare works. It takes a while.
Yeah. And we can be slow. We can be behind the eight ball. So one of my questions was when do you actually think we'll see it in Australia?
Well, it's a great question. We are going international now, and I actually could go to Australia tomorrow. There was a provider there that was, we're looking for providers that are those elite thought leaders that are willing to accept a new total concept because we're changing lives. We're changing lives. And it's, the problem is with healthcare, when you develop a product that helps people, it has to go through a lot of hoops before it's allowed to really get into the market. Because you can't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
You can't hurt somebody that may already be in pain. So it is a long process to get there. But now we're prepared to go world, and we're in a position to do so. But it requires somebody. There are people listening on your audience right now that I know that are there for a purpose of hearing what you have to say. And somebody in your network and somebody in Australia will be the first one to get the all core. And they'll be. It's not about money, goodness knows, but they're millionaires. To have the first machine like that in the country, it will be fabulous. And we can send as many as you need, but you need as many as we do. It's not
Well,
like we have problems that you don't have.
I
So
was
let's do this somehow.
I was going to say back pain doesn't discriminate between countries, does it? It's universal,
No, no.
and the concept of core stability training, of course, is one of the prime tools that people encounter the minute they have a back problem. So tell me now about the system and the model and what you think its unique selling points are.
And I appreciate the opportunity to do that. What we did, and like I said, I was a chiropractor, and what I realized in chiropractic school, and then as I treated patients over many, many years, is that the best physicians, here's what I look at. The body is a miracle machine. The body absolutely knows how to heal itself. I mean, you may break a bone and I might line it up, but it heals it. The body does that. So there's this innate wisdom in the body that knows how to heal. And so what a good physician does is they take, in my opinion, is they take that innate wisdom and then do everything you can to foster that, encourage it, help it along the path that it's doing anyway.
Mm,
Don't get in there and think you're so smart that you can change what the body thinks it needs to do. Listen to the body, which is paramount. The
mm,
body will tell you, and then just kind of go along that line. And I think that's what's really important. And so what I did was, here's, I took about what is the core for? I mean, we know what the ear's for, we know what the eye's for, but there's no part of our body that doesn't have a survival reason. So what's the survival reason of the core? I promise you it's not to do sit-ups. Nowhere on the planet do we need to do sit-ups. It's a movement that we don't really do. And I mean, I've done millions of them. I'm not pretending that I haven't done a million sit-ups. But at the end of the day, I've never been called upon in the real world to do a sit-up, which kind of was odd when I thought about how much effort I put into that. But
yeah.
so here's what I did. I thought, what is the core really for? Why do we have a core? Well, obviously we need to move around, but it's not. Think about this for a minute. The way we train the core is let's just say a sit up or a crunch. What we do is we take the one muscle of the core, the stomach, abdominal muscles, and we forward flex. That's how we train that. We forward flex that. So can the abdominal muscles do that? Yes, they're capable of doing that. And can you train the abdominal muscles that way? You absolutely can. But what are the abdominal muscles really for? So think about it. We're not called upon in survival ever to do a sit up, but we are called upon is to not break in half.
Mm,
So if I get hit from the front by a rhinoceros, whatever, I get hit from the front. I don't want my spine to bend too far back. If it bends too far back, it'll break.
mhm,
What stops it from bending too far back are the abdominal muscles.
mhm,
So the goal of the abdominal muscles is to stop the spine from getting out of its perfect position. And it does that isometrically. Boom, there's a eureka moment. We
mm,
keep training the core isotonically, but we don't use it that way. The maintenance of your posture, you're sitting, you're standing, you're walking, you're living, all that is done by hundreds of little muscles that control the posture, making it a perfect posture. We don't get hurt when we're in posture. We get hurt when we're bent over and twisted and that and this, and then we do something and we hurt ourselves.
mm,
So at the end of the day, the goal, the survival mechanism of the spine and the core is to maintain that perfect posture so we don't get hurt. That's the survival mechanism. And the survival mechanism is on a subconscious level. It's like we're hardwired to survive.
mhm,
Our body knows how to survive. When we trip, oh, we don't think I got to flex my left quadricep and bend my left. We stabilize ourselves right away.
mhm.
That innate power that we have in balance is that survival mechanism, and that's what the all core stimulates. So we go beyond the mental, I want to do 10 sit-ups and quit at 8. We jump right into the survival mechanism that the body does on its own, and the mind can turn off. You don't need the mind. The part of me that is Scott doesn't do the all core. The part of me that's the survival mechanism is what does all core. And
And
because we're making the body responds to survival stuff, it really does. Go ahead.
oh, that's what you're talking about, the subconscious training versus the conscious. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because the conscious mind is weak. I mean, we may wake up in the morning and go, nah, I don't really want to do that today. That's your conscious mind.
Mm,
That mind is, I mean, much as we like to make it powerful, that one will quit on you. But the survival part of your body will not. You could say you don't want to correct yourself when you stumble, but you will. The body will do that whether you want to or not. So
Yeah.
what we're doing is we're working with the body's part that will do it whether we want to or not. And then we don't have to rely on the weak mind that quits. We have a part of us that will quit.
Yeah.
And that part doesn't even get talked to. So
No,
it makes it much easier.
it's really innovative, Scott. Really like the concept. So for those people listening, they will jump on your website later to actually get the visual on what this device and machine looks
Right.
like, as I did. Effectively, you sit in a chair and then it spins through 360 degrees, changing forward, backwards, side motions, and your ability to just simply sit and stabilize by very virtue of the fact your center of gravity is moving is what trains these deeper abdominal units. Is that kind of correct?
Gosh, you do that so well. It's hard to visualize, and I will try to explain it to the audience, but you're right. That it's done perfectly. What we're doing is we're taking the center of gravity and moving it through space. When your center of gravity moves, a ton of muscles have to be involved in doing that.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. So for your listeners, so picture yourself sitting in an office chair, but there's no back to it. So we don't have a back. So we're sitting and holding ourselves up in this perfect posture. If I tilt the chair back, the only thing that's going to stop me from falling off the chair is every muscle from my chin to my pelvic floor. They will contract to stop me from falling off the back of the chair. So now I'm tilted. I hope I don't fall off this chair. Now I'm tilted on the back of the chair and all the anterior muscles are engaged. There's no support back here. So what happens is that my body starts to turn. So what happened, it's 100% anterior contraction. And then it turns a little bit, and that's 90% anterior and 10% lateral. And then
Gotcha.
it's 80% and 20% until it's 100% lateral.
Yeah.
And by going fiber by fiber, we don't miss a fiber in the entire core. The core has 360 degrees of potentiality. And the
Yeah.
way we train it, we pick this degree, that's one of them. We do this degree, that's another one. We call it a day. Now, the spine is far more dynamic. It does so many, many things that if you challenge it the way it was designed to function, if you challenge, it wasn't designed to hit a golf ball. If you challenge it the way it's designed to function, it will rapidly improve. And if you do it on a level that's reflexive, that's survival mode, it does it even quicker. People
And
will get off the device after their very first ride and go, oh my gosh, look how much better I feel after one turn. So it does that. And I need you to help me get this in Australia. It desperately needs to be there.
yeah,
You have
it,
back pain sufferers. I can help. We can
yeah,
help.
it is frustrating, isn't it, when there's so many people suffering back pain and there are ways that are working and yet people don't know about it. And so that's why you're on. That's why you're
Oh.
here. I have more questions though. So the person sits. What if sitting is a provocative pain position for them? Is there how do you get around that? Do you sort of ask them to
Okay.
come into more extension if that feels better, or drop into more flexion if that's more soothing? So, how much guidance do you give them about their default sitting position before they actually start having themselves moved?
Well, I think that everybody that really starts on the device will start in a health practitioner where they should have a very good diagnosis so they understand what's going on. One of the contraindications to the device is a radicular component, pain down the leg, pain down the arm when you're in a sitting position. If you
Okay.
have that, then the all-core may not be what's best for you. But to answer your question, because it does so much for so many people, that people in that space very often still, let's see what this can do. And
Mm-hmm.
we do what you said. We put them in that comfortable position and we challenge them when they're comfortable. But like we talked about earlier, the body knows what it needs to do. It
Mm-hmm.
knows the position it needs to be in. And if you give it the challenge that will help it go in that position, if you help it, it may very well go right back in that position. So what we would do is, and I think you understand that the farther we tilt the machine back, the more difficult the challenge is.
Mm-hmm.
So with somebody in a space like that, it would be a slight challenge at a comfortable position. And what we do quite frequently is after a week, they go down just 1 degree.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
the next week they go down another degree. But picture that in a
Yeah.
year, that's
Yeah.
50 degrees. They go
Yeah.
from here to here, and that is an
Yeah.
amazing change in life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it makes a big difference in their health.
And so it sounds like it's customizable. So, It's not just press a button and everyone gets the same sort of stimulation. It's quite
No,
customized to the person and where they're at.
absolutely. Yeah,
Back.
and what it does, briefly, it tilts and it rotates.
Yeah.
It rotates clockwise and counterclockwise and has multiple angles that you can be challenged in. So what ends up happening on the all core is one of the most important things is we get balanced. And that's what you'll find with most back injuries and with most injuries in general, it's due to an imbalance. And we
Hmm.
know we should be balanced spiritually and balanced nutritionally, but we absolutely have to be balanced when we stand up straight or things start to break down. So the
Hmm.
first thing this machine will do will balance the core. And that's hugely important for that eventual degenerative breakdown. But
Hmm.
because it does that, Marion, if you let, well, here's what we like to do. And this happens so frequently, and it's such a sorting thing for me. But if you walked into one of my clinics, what I would do is say, Marion, here, let's go stand up in front of this posture chart. I want you to give me your best posture. And I'm going to take a photograph of that, and from the front and from the side. And most people have some imbalance. Their shoulders a little higher than the other one, the hips a little higher. There's a little head canter one way or the other. So those things show up on the photo. I
Hmm.
put you on the device. It's a 10-minute challenge. I take you off the device. You go right back in front of that same posture chart and take that picture. And whether you want to or not, you're standing up straighter, your head straight, you're balanced. That one challenge can last almost 2 days. You come back and
Wow.
see me in 2 days,
Yeah.
it's going to last another 2 days. All of a sudden, it lasts a week. And
Hmm.
before you know it, a perfect posture becomes your normal posture.
Yeah.
And when you have
Wow.
a balanced posture,
Yeah.
it's amazing what it'll do to your pain levels and your functionality.
Oh, for
You know,
sure.
we,
For
we
sure.
restrict our movements and we need to have the movement and the strength to enjoy our lives, our quality of lives.
Yeah. So do they start with, say, an all core isometric sort of build up of their core? And then let's say I'm an athlete and I like to kayak and I need a lot of rotation. Then I obviously develop into the sport specific drills and the performance drills on top of that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But picture what you're doing.
Yeah.
Even as a kayaker, and I know kayaking is a great sport because it really is
I know.
bilateral. You are pretty much losing both sides,
It's a
and it's
stunning
all
sport.
core, no pun intended. It is all about your core.
It
But if
is.
you just did one side, like many athletic movements are one-sided rotational movements,
Yes.
baseball, soft, all those, and that's developing a very, very imbalanced posture and a
Hmm.
very, very imbalanced set of muscles that
Hmm.
will eventually break down and cause trauma. But for kayaking, absolutely, you would add that to the program. You would do the
Yeah.
all core first,
Yeah.
because what the all core is going to do for you, Marianne, you're going to, and I know you know your body so well that it's going to be very quick. And let me just say this: everybody gets it in one or two visits, but some people get it in the first minute. And
Mm.
my guess is you're going to get it in the first minute. And what
Mm.
happens is it's going to point out your weak link.
Mm.
And you'll know it. I'm not going to have to tell you your weak
No.
link. As you turn, you'll go, oh my gosh, that's so much more difficult right there.
Love
Then
that.
all of a sudden, you know where your
Yeah.
weak link is. And
Yeah.
trust me, in health and in that competitive arena, you
Yeah.
want to improve that weak link. And we've
Mhm.
got, Olympic athletes using it all the time. We've got, professional golfers. It's definitely in the athletic world because a good core can do anything.
Mhm.
But in the rehab world, it's near miraculous. I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you a quick story, and I don't mean to keep talking about this, but I think the listeners will appreciate this. We were treating patients in my office, and I had a good colleague of mine reach out to me and say, hey, I've got a beautiful young lady, and she was a wonderful woman, and I think your machine can help her. And she was a paraplegic. She had this paraplegic problem. But because the machine is seated, because you're completely secured, you actually need no function from the waist down. Zero. You could be in a wheelchair, you can be paralyzed, you can be amputated. You don't need anything from the waist down. So I thought, let's try and help her. So we bring her out to the clinic, and obviously, because of her condition, she has no muscle tone. People that are paraplegic have a very difficult time training their muscle. So she has very little muscle tone. But because of the way the machine works, it requires no movement
Mhm.
and no degree of athleticism.
Mhm.
She didn't have to be able to do anything other than sit. And
Mm.
so we started her in that machine. And long story short, she was doing remarkably well. And that's a good story in and of itself. But several weeks into it, her dad who also came with her and to be treated. But her dad reached out to me and said, Dr. Scott, we need to talk to you. And so we came into the office, and my fear was that we had hurt her, because I would never hurt her. And I was so afraid that I would hurt her. And so I sat there in absolute fear because, she was a beautiful one. But they came in, here's what they said. Dr. Bertrand, had you told me that you were going to be able to help my daughter be able to transfer from her wheelchair to the commode and off the commode onto the wheelchair without assistance, and be able to help her get out of her bed onto her wheelchair and help her to get out of the wheelchair and into the car, but it would have cost us $1 million, I would have found me, because she does that now. And I went, oh my gosh, that's the space that we so desperately need to be involved in. You want to be a better kayaker, and I want a six-pack, and it does all those things. And we need providers out there that are sharing that. But that space, that quadriplegic, paraplegic, we all know somebody that's had a stroke, and my gosh, they would do so much better on the all-core. So I need your audience to help. I need you to help. I can't do it alone. I need thought leaders, like you.
Well, exactly. This is what the podcast is about, is bringing or shining a spotlight basically on people doing cool things in the back pain world. And there's so many myths about back pain. And, we hear it in the clinic all day. People come in with a preconceived idea of what they need to get better. And half the time it's not even what they need, but they think they know what they need based on what they've read and consumed online or heard from a friend. So great. You're going to be, hopefully people will hear this and be more aware. A few more questions.
Well, that's hopefully somebody in the audience. Yeah, go ahead.
What do the patients say? How do they perceive the experience? Do they say, oh my gosh, my six-pack's burning? Or is it more of a heaviness? Like, what's their sense of the experience in the chair?
What a great question. An athlete, well, someone who already feels they have a superior body, and they do. The athlete's first experience is, I didn't realize I had these weaknesses. So that's kind of unique and humbling, very humbling, because they'll turn around and see a woman in a wheelchair do better than they did. Wow. So that can be a very humbling experience. Yeah. But here's the experience that everybody has. They get off the device, and I'm talking about within 4 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, they say, I feel so much lighter, not heavy, so much lighter. And what that is, Marion, and it's so simple when you think about it. Our postures, because of our society, have set us up where our shoulders are in front of our hips. We look down at everything, our phones we're always out in front of that. So when you take that all-core and you get off the all-core, now your shoulders are positioned over your hips. That's how it's supposed to be. It's like we were kids. We have that bounce back to our step. I mean, we end up ruining that posture and ruining that energy we had as children, but it comes back. You get off this machine and go, oh my gosh, I feel so much lighter. And then the next thing they said, and this is a fact, I feel taller. If they have a lateral deviation in their spine, they will be taller. Yeah. And it's an experience that if you did that, I can look at you and tell you have a good posture. But let's say you didn't, and you walked into my office with your husband, and you got on the machine, you went in the room, got on the machine, then walked back out in the office, your husband would go, oh my gosh, you're standing up so much straighter. I mean, that's really how it goes. And people need that, they need that good, it's hard to be depressed when you're in a good posture. When 100%. You're standing up straight and smiling, it's hard to be depressed. Well, it makes that kind of difference.
We all know the studies about that, right? How your posture equates with a certain hormonal output, which makes you feel quite different. And you only have to walk around in a slump, and you can make yourself feel pretty sad and pretty anxious quite quickly. But Scott, the other thing you're doing by creating that lightness and height through the abdomen is oxygenation, like lung function, visceral function, digestive function. These are the comorbidities of back pain, because in this whole abdo-thoracic region, the minute we have any sort of spinal rotation or lateral flexion, we've got some internal visceral organ copying it from above and below. So, think of the flow-on benefits from just that, of simply having this balanced, optimal height-based core. It's pretty cool. That concept of spatial medicine is not something that people associate with posture, but it's pretty big when you can. Everyone thinks of it towards our musculoskeletal health, but the ripple effects are quite big for the rest of our overall
Oh,
health.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Right.
great.
I think, we have a miracle machine that most of us spend our life killing. But,
Yeah.
what we should do is instead of, we need to adore our core. I think I'm going to coin that term. We need to adore our core because at the end of the day, what we are, the core is like this tube of muscle with arms and legs plugged in, or flippers and fins or hooves or whatever animals have. But, we all are this core, this tube. And if we don't take care of this tube, like you said, we have organic dysfunction. Our lungs don't operate efficiently. We're this holistic thing that for some reason we take it apart and pick this little piece, and I'm going to work on the heart, and I'm going to work on the calf muscle, and I'm a foot doctor. We're this holistic machine that's a miracle that God gave us. And if we don't treat it that way, it won't work right.
That's right.
We need to take care of it much, much better.
Yeah.
And I know your listeners do. The people that are on your podcast are the ones that are already aware.
Mm-hmm.
People go through their life almost unaware of their back until they hurt it, and then all of a sudden it becomes something they're paying attention to.
Yeah.
But if we taught that in school, that your mom said, sit up straight and stand up straight. But did we know how valuable that was? It was not just valuable, it was critical.
Yeah.
And we never paid attention to it. So that's my
Well,
goal, that we're going to change 1 million lives with people like you to help us out. But
yeah. Yeah. Well, we don't listen to things until, as you say, we've experienced them. So I get that kids aren't interested because, if they haven't experienced pain, that's why pain is really, it's a great thing because it really makes us pay
yes,
attention. It makes us seek answers. We wouldn't do any of that unless we had pain. So pain is always
exactly.
that first step to change, and we shouldn't run
Mhm.
from it. We shouldn't distract from it. We shouldn't medicate ourselves away from it. That whole
Right.
concept of just leaning into it and being curious about what it's got to deliver is a big conversation I have regularly, but people don't often want to hear it. Okay, but as we wrap up, I would love to know, when I say bulletproof back, what does that look like from your perspective?
Well, and I love your even name. Bulletproof back is what everybody needs. But from my perspective, the bulletproof back is probably the predominant portion of a bulletproof core. I don't separate the two. We've got a back and a side and a front, and the bulletproof back is part of that balanced core. So to me, that bulletproof back is strong, and it's a coat of armor holding a perfect posture. That's what people need. This muscular coat of armor maintaining that perfect posture. To me, that's bulletproof.
I love that. I love that. And if you mindful that we have hopefully people listening who are, they've probably been to a few practitioners, they've probably tried a few therapists, they're starting to lose a bit of hope because they're still in pain, and they might be getting short-term benefits but nothing lasting. What tips would you give to them?
Other than immediately buying an all core and having them ship it, you mean? No, yeah, that would do it. No, but
Good.
here's what I would
That might
do.
be it. That might be your tip.
And yeah, let's make that happen. But I would, because I was a chiropractor and taught this for 35 years, at the end of the day, like I told you before, most of these things come from imbalance. So you can go to practitioners, chiropractors, physical therapists, and you walk out of the facility, oh my gosh, I feel better. But by the time you get home or by the next evening or next morning, you're going, oh my gosh, what happened? So what you have to look at, what changed between the therapy and the pain? And what you're going to find is it's more than likely going to be something you did. I always sit with my left leg over my right leg. I always lean in the chair like this. I always sleep on this side. I'm one-sided with everything I do. So the first thing I would recommend is, as much as you want to rely on your practitioners, jump back really quickly to your posture and your daily habits, because temporary fixes may be just that. You need to probably change something in your life, and maybe take a practitioner to show you which one of those things you need to change.
Yeah.
But it's something you're doing away from the clinic. They're doing the best they can. So
Yeah.
to me, it's balance. It's going to
Yeah.
turn out it's balance and habits and occupations and recreational activities. You got to look at those things for balance.
Your movement habits that are you're unaware of half the time. Yeah, I think it's, and but again, the pain can usually guide us, can't it? Because it's going to surface in the posture that's normally the one that you need to be most aware of. And that
Yeah.
relationship that it's having you notice, the red light's gone on. You go, it's when I sit. How am I sitting? Could I possibly sit differently? That process is
Right.
kind of cool, really,
Huge.
when we
It's
know how
huge.
it
It's
works.
huge. Yeah, and you're exactly right. That's what needs. And basically, what you're saying is we need to develop an awareness.
Yeah,
We're driving this body like it's on self autopilot. We have to realize that we're driving it, and we're in a lot of control of a lot of things that happen to it.
yeah,
So, yeah, that's a perfect way to look at it.
cool. And so wrapping up, people are listening, they're very curious about your product. What do you recommend they do? If there's practitioners listening who are interested in actually having the device or bringing it out to Australia, can we just put some contact details in the show notes, or are you just happy for them to go to the website and hit you up directly? What's the best way?
That's all those will be fine. What I'll do is share a link that
Great.
will allow the practice. Well, it could be a practitioner, or it could be someone who may want to use the device. It'll go to a link that allow you to understand more about it
Yep.
and ask questions. I will also share my personal email because as the inventor, I probably know more about the device than anybody else. And I know that the practitioners may want to talk to me directly. And
Mm-hmm.
because we need them so badly, I'm gonna hook them up with me directly. You're not gonna go through anybody else. I want to be the one to talk with them because it's really important that we help the people in Australia. So I will also, there'll be the www.allcore360.com. That'll
Great.
be obvious. There'll
Yep.
be a link that'll
Yeah.
give them a lot of information also. And they'll
Yep.
also include my own, email, and be more than happy to respond to those providers who have interest or people who are just interested in general. It's
Yeah.
growing very fast when positioned out to be able to send them to Australia. I
Yeah.
can't wait to be the first person to bring one to Australia and make that provider a multimillionaire. But it's about helping people, and somebody needs
Totally.
to open it up over there. So
Good stuff,
yeah,
Scott. I will say you've given me you've changed my interpretation of core. I must admit when people come in and say, I talk to them about their back and I'll often say, what do you feel needs to happen for this to become bulletproof? What's the process you think is required? And without fail, they will all say, I need a stronger core. And, when you look at this person, there's 100 other things that I would perceive are going to be way more
right,
beneficial
right,
to
right,
them than the core. But because their idea of core training is what you've described earlier is this traditional six-pack loading and even, or even just repetitions of chins and knee tucks and all sorts of things that are really not that functional. But I love this way
right,
you're defining the core. I think it's such a more pure, what's the word? The survival mechanism is taking it deep and subconscious into the neuroplastic response. And I really think that is what's unique and different about this sort of training. And I would love giving that opportunity to someone to invite them to experience that idea of core training versus what I guess they're walking in with in their head. So yeah,
right,
I
right.
don't perceive the word core as a dirty word anymore. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you don't. That's I've devoted my life to it, so we won't make it a dirty word.
Yeah, good.
It's so critical to who we are as people, and it's become my mission. So thank you for allowing me to share this.
My
I really
pleasure.
hope me and you and one or two other people over there are going to make Australia better, and that's our goal.
Good stuff, Scott. Thank you so much. Sorry for the hiccups at the start, but we got
Thank
it
you.
done. Thank you, my friend.
No problem. I'm blessed. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Building Bulletproof Backs. To learn more about Marion's unique Building a Bulletproof Back online course, visit the link in the show notes. You will receive a step-by-step system providing mental, physical, and emotional strategies for smashing your back pain to the curb. Ain't nothing like this anywhere else on the market. Become your own hero.